In today's video, advocating for the work of coaching with your school leader, featuring Joellen and Killion. Hello, coaches! Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better Quick Tips. My name is Kim Capino, and I've worked with hundreds of teachers, coaches, and leaders in schools around the world to help them create thriving and sustainable instructional coaching programs. And I'm on a mission to help you coach better. Wherever you are in your coaching journey, we can support you. Come learn with us in one of our courses or private mentoring packages designed for instructional coaches. Join our Coach Better community and find all of our resources for instructional coaches on our website at coachbetter.tv. If you have questions you'd like to hear us answer or a topic you'd like us to discuss, please drop us a line on our website at coachbetter.tv/ask. Join our Coach Better Facebook group or find us on social media at Eduro Learning and send me a DM. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to catch all of our latest episodes here on YouTube. Today's episode is a highlight from one of my favorite episodes from a previous season. If you're a longtime Coach Better listener, you know that Joellen Killion is my instructional coaching superhero. And her episode from a few seasons ago was a masterclass in all things instructional coaching. I will link it up here for you. Since we're focusing on coaches as leaders right now, I thought sharing this clip with Joellen, where she explains how coaches can directly advocate for the work of coaching, would be well worth highlighting here. One of the biggest challenges that my clients face is realizing when their line manager or principal doesn't truly understand the role of an instructional coach. This comes up when they are consistently asked to be the extra chaperone on every trip, or to constantly do sub cover, or to supervise all the exams, or to have more duties than any other teacher. As Joellen says in the full episode, if coaches are doing non-coaching work, then the benefit of coaching is lost, but the cost remains. We all know how important it is for coaches to be focused on coaching, but actually having that conversation with your line manager or divisional principal can be really challenging. If this is a challenge you're facing, I know you're going to find Joellen's advice really helpful. And if you want to make sure that coaching is sustainable in your school setting, you'll also love our new workshop for experienced coaches, Scaling Your Impact as an Instructional Coach. You can find it at edurolearning.com/scale. And I'll tell you more about it, along with another great opportunity for you to grow and leverage your leadership skills at the end of this episode. Okay, let's jump in. If you're in this situation where perhaps some of that work hasn't necessarily been articulated, and you are a coach and you're in this position of being that person, that collaborator, that contributor, they're always willing, they're saying yes, and before you know it, you're doing 0% coaching, 80% secretarial work, and 20% mini administrator. How do you help your immediate school leader, so like the person who's your direct line supervisor, understand what this job should be? What strategies do you have for coaches that are a little bit trapped, may or may not have a coach champion, like just might be the one who has to do this work?
Yeah. And it is very often coaches who are literally responsible for surfacing these questions and facilitating it being placed in positions where they're facilitating their supervisors to answer these questions. And that's what it takes. It takes a willingness to be brave, to say, I'd love to have a conversation with you about your vision for the work I do as a coach. And I'd love to share with you my vision for what it means to be a coach. And I'd love for us to put that side by side and to negotiate what it can be and what it needs to be in this school. And then to set a set of expectations for my work. And if you're in a school, coach, if you're in a school where the principal needs some mini administrative support, set aside time. What's the appropriate amount of time for that? Is it 20% of my job? Is it 15%? Is it 50%? Let's set some parameters, reach some agreements, and then revisit those multiple times during the year with some data. So coach would need to be willing to track and come back and say, let's just look at the last couple months and here's how it worked. And I noticed because of this thing that happened, I was pulled more into the administrative responsibilities or had fewer of those. And I was able to spend more time working directly with teachers. So how is this working? So sometimes it's just that conversation. What are your expectations? What are my expectations? What do we hope to gain? And for the coach and the principal to identify the goals of their coaching program.
Yay!
It's hard. It's hard for coaches to do that, to really feel comfortable, yet they must. Otherwise, they're just being pulled like puppets on strings, and they know in their heart they are not doing what is going to make a difference in teaching quality or student learning. They know it, and it tears them apart.
One of the things that Kim taught me is this concept of coaching up. And we've worked in the same school together, and I've sat in a room with her, with the head of school, the principal, and I will tell you, she is a master of coaching up, having these conversations with, people who are technically further up the food chain than you, and really helping to shape their vision. And I think that's because she comes in with a really strong vision of what she is hoping for, right? She's already sort of had this conversation in her mind. But I was thinking earlier, as we were talking about this idea of coaching heavy, like what does coaching heavy with admin and administrators look like in order, and not to get your way or to be manipulative, but really to like help shape your role, so that you have that common understanding, or that you help, if you have a really strong vision of what coaching is and what coaching should be, you help your administration team come to some realization, right? And asking those hard questions. How do you ask those hard questions to people who are technically above you in the organization chart? I think that's a really difficult position to be in. And it takes, like you said, it takes a lot of courage, and a lot of, I think, wherewithal in order to be able to have that conversation. Do you have any advice for coaching heavy with admin and what that might look like?
Well, I agree. If you're coaching heavy with admin, that takes extra courage, extra wherewithal. And I think, take it from the perspective, in order for coaching to have its greatest impact in this school, what do you want it to look like? And maybe I will have an opportunity to share with you what I think it can look like. And in order for me to do my work well, I want some parameters. So let's put some parameters around that role. And those parameters involve percentage of time in major categories of work. They involve an essential parameter about, do I work with all teachers in the school or just some? Ask a principal that question. Which would you prefer? Because I know how to create a system for a coach to work with every teacher in a school multiple times in the school year without a voluntary system whatsoever to make coaching deeply embedded. That's very easy to do. In order for me to give my attention to what's the priority, I need to know what I can come to you with and the support that you can give to me and message you'll share with your staff about my role in this school. So a part of our principal training for coaches is, how does a principal introduce the coach to the staff? Introduce coaching to the staff. help the principal identify what the expectations are for every staff member in the school. I remember having a conversation with a principal at an international school who was unwilling to require every teacher to work with the coach, but set the expectation that every teacher worked with the coach. And, we let that rest for a while. And after probably a couple of years, it was clear that probably fewer than 50% of the teachers were working with the coach. So then we had to tweak the message a little bit and figure out, were there consequences or not consequences? Or how do we begin to think about spreading the wealth of coaching to others? So there's all kinds of different ways about doing it, but the coach needs to know what the expectations are in order to do that work. When they do not, and they have no parameters set, this is what happens. They work with teachers who volunteer to work with them. That list of teachers is usually pretty limited. Those teachers are often teachers who are fairly confident in doing a pretty good part of their work already. They're usually pretty good. And the teachers in classrooms that could benefit the most from coaching are not touched. And now we have created a giant inequity in the building. But we're unwilling to say that. We're unwilling to call that out, that there are students in this school who are not getting the best teaching they could get. Mm-hmm. When we have the way to address that. And that's a problem for me. It's a problem. It should be a problem for every coach and every principal.
I think a big part is being able to articulate it the way you did. And I think, like, you both talked about how intimidating it is to talk to help someone who's above you on the pay grade or whatever answer these questions. But I think it's that stark contrast, because I think a lot of times what happens is principals are busy people. Things are happening. They have this competent person that doesn't necessarily have a teaching schedule. Suddenly, many urgent items are being taken care of, and now they're not on my plate. So coaching, check, is solving a problem. It's just not solving the right problem. And it's a matter of what, maybe problem is not necessarily the right word, but you know what I mean. It's right. Fixing. Right.
The support is there.
Yeah. And so transitioning that language to, we're not working on the urgent of what needs to get done today and pulling a competent person in to do those things, but we're looking at improving student learning over time. And that means this competent person isn't going to be available to do subcover or whatever 15 other things you're pulling them to do, because they're doing the more important work of helping teachers improve instruction in their classroom and improve student learning and all of that kind of stuff. And I think it's putting that in stark comparison for principals. Thinking of Covey's, matrix, urgent, not important. This may seem like it's not urgent, but it is important. And that's the quadrant we want to stay in.
And I think the other thing, I spend time with coaches teaching them how to say no. What do they say to a principal who comes to them and says, I need you to do X? And there isn't a coach in the world who isn't going to respond positively when a principal comes and says that. Well, how do we say no? And to say it in a way that helps the principal understand what isn't going to happen because I'm going to turn my attention to this. Which classrooms, which teachers, which students are not going to have the support because this is taking a priority. And principals, I can't tell you, principals don't do this out of malicious intent or to make their job easier. They are dealing with an enormous set of responsibilities, and they're really trying to find a way to get it all handled so that there can be the best results for everybody. what happens is that we end up with this sort of narrow, we see the immediate field, we can't look long term. So when a principal sees a coach and asks a coach to go test these 5 kids, the principal isn't thinking about the 3 classrooms of teachers the coach was going to work with during that next 2-hour period and all of those students. It just isn't that either or for the principal. And so sometimes we have to help the principal see what's not being done when I'm doing this. What are we saying no to? What are we saying yes to?
Oh my gosh, so much yes. I just had a great conversation with someone I'm coaching yesterday, and she's talking about her head of school is very focused on relationships and personality and the impact that individuals can have. And she, as a coach, and she also has a part-time administrative position, he just thinks she's doing this great job, but he can't articulate what she's doing. And so we're working together to help her articulate, this is what coaching is. This is what I'm doing. Yes, I'm like an effervescent, person that can build great relationships, but really this is the work that I'm doing. And if or when I leave, this is the position you need to hire for. You're not replacing me, the human, you're replacing this position. And I think that mindset can be hard because we hire personalities a lot of the time, right? We're not hiring for this position.
We do. And that's true with coaches.
Yes.
We hire personalities. And, I think that's lovely. And there's more than just the personality.
Hi, coaches. I hope you enjoyed this clip from my conversation with Joellen. Being an advocate for instructional coaching, even at the whole school or systemic level, is often a big leap, even for experienced coaches. Realizing that your understanding of your role does not align with your line manager is devastating, but that does not mean that all hope is lost. This episode is a starting point in helping you begin to navigate this complex conversation, but we have more for you. My brand new workshop, Scaling Your Impact as an Instructional Coach, digs into the specific systems and structures that need to be in place for instructional coaching to be sustainable, including advocating for your role with your senior leadership team. This workshop will also give you a preview of our new online course for experienced coaches, Coaches as Leaders. So, if you're an experienced instructional coach and you're ready to start thinking about these big picture systemic structures so you can make your coaching program more sustainable, watch the workshop at edurolearning.com/scale. And if you discover that you need more support as you go through the process, join us in our first global cohort of Coaches as Leaders, designed for experienced coaches ready to advocate for and build the systems and structures that are needed to truly sustain a coaching culture. In Coaches as Leaders, we'll help you recognize exactly which systems and structures you need and might be missing in your school setting so you can make your coaching culture sustainable, both for yourself as an individual coach and for the school. Registration opens only once a year. Get all the details at edurolearning.com/CAL. If you're curious if this course is for you, send me a DM on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter, and let's start a conversation. I'd love to support you in your coaching journey. See you next time.